Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're doing a top 10. Topic of this top 10, top 10 matches of 2022. If you've been following along, we've been doing basically a best of 2022 in our top 10s. This is my 10 favorite matches of the year. With that being said, let's jump right into it. First up at number 10, from Forbidden Door, Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. Now everybody in this generation will say that Will Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers in the world. You'd be hard pressed to find someone to heap the same praise onto Orange Cassidy. And it's not that he's a bad wrestler or he's even a bad gimmick. It's just that he's not looked at as that upper echelon. However, when given this opportunity, he absolutely took the ball and ran with it. To me, the best match on that card of what was basically a lot of dream matches was Ospreay and Orange Cassidy. I thought they absolutely tore the house down. I thought they made Forbidden Door what it was. To me, again, one of my favorite matches of the year. I thought they were absolutely amazing. Orange Cassidy showed that he does have that upper gear that he can step into where he's more, and he's done before. He's had matches where he's shown this before, but he really showed that he could step up in that upper echelon with the Will Ospreays of the world, the Okadas of the world, and absolutely perform on the level of some of these all-time greats. This was an absolutely fantastic match. I loved it, hence why it's on my list. Now our number 9, really early into the year, from the Dynamite episode on January 5th, Hangman Adam Page going up against Bryan Danielson. This was their second match, the first one being the hour-long Broadway. I thought this was better than the Broadway, in my opinion. I thought this was a better match. I loved what they did here. This, to me, was the best part of Hangman Page's run. I feel like the build-up to his championship was way more impressive than his run. Although there were some good bright spots, this being the shining example of one of the better matches that I've ever seen Hangman Adam Page have. And Bryan Danielson, he can have great matches with everybody. Absolute amazing match, showing right off early on in the year. Came out and becoming one of the match of the year candidates just 5 days into the year. Thought it was absolutely fantastic. Like I said, my favorite of their two matches. One of the best matches in AEW all year. One of my favorite matches of the year. Next up, our number 8, from Triple Mania 30 from Mexico City. I believe this was the third of the Triple Mania events. It might have been the second, but El Hijo del Vikingo versus Rey Fenix for the AAA Mega Championship. This was a match that, if you haven't seen it, and you haven't been watching AAA, and you haven't seen Vikingo or Phoenix, I keep calling him Phoenix, I don't know why. If you haven't seen Phoenix in AAA, I would say go out and watch this. You could go back, it's on Fight, you could get this for $20, and let's say you get a gift card for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. I would say go and search this out, because this is an absolute fantastic match. I've talked a lot about El Hijo del Vikingo recently, especially in these best of the year things, because I absolutely think he's had an amazing year in 2022. I'm a little bit sad because I referenced on my best male wrestlers that he was going to do some U.S. appearances. However, part of that deal is none of his U.S. appearances can be streamed, so kind of a give or take on that one. I think he's fantastic. I think he's someone that if you're not watching AAA, you should definitely look out for his highlights, because he's definitely going to be one of the people that sets the tone for the next 10 years in wrestling. He kind of reminds me, in a way, of an early AJ Styles or an early Kenny Omega, in that he has all the tools, all the talent in the world. It's just a matter of people getting their eyes on him to see just how great he really is. And to me, I think he's already there. The sky's the limit for the guy. At the end of his career, he'll probably go down as one of the greats, one of the great luchadors in the history of the sport. And hopefully we get to see more of him in America and on American television or on American pay-per-views. Now, going from that, our number 7. You can't speak about America without speaking of the American Nightmare. Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins from Hell in a Cell. This was probably one of the gutsiest performances that you'll see in this generation of wrestling. We've seen wrestlers wrestle with broken bones, broken necks. In this generation where everything is so sterilized and they stop at even the hint of an injury, which kudos to them, they should definitely do that. You have a guy that comes out with a torn muscle and it just looks terrible. And they don't shy away from going at that torn muscle. I think the added aspect of Cody working the match injured really added to the brutality. Seth Rollins' offense looked more devastating. Cody's offense looked like it hurt him because he was in so much pain. This was a fantastic story. This was two absolute greats just going at it and giving everything they have. This is probably my favorite Hell in a Cell for at least the last couple of years. Maybe I'd put it up there with the Usos and the New Day one. I thought that was a great Hell in a Cell as well. Or Hell in a Cell. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic match. My favorite of their matches of the year. Just another example of how far Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins as well, how far they're willing to take it and risk themselves for their art. We've seen Cody over and over again. He burned himself on a table, basically gave himself third-degree burns in what essentially was his last match in AEW. So what a great match, what a great visual. I can't wait till Cody Rhodes comes back, hopefully in the Royal Rumble, if not sooner, because I can't wait to see where he goes from here. Coming from that, our number 6, another early entry from the same day as the Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson match. Will Ospreay versus Kazuchika Okada from Wrestle Kingdom Day 2. What can I say? You got Kazuchika Okada, in my opinion, when he's all said and done, will be the greatest New Japan Pro Wrestling wrestler of all time. And you got Will Ospreay, who's basically gunning for Okada's spot at the top, to be the ace of that company, to be the main star of that company, and to take it into the next generation. This was an absolutely phenomenal match. I mean, what can you say about Ospreay and Okada, both of them individually, together, that hasn't been said a million times? Two of the fantastic wrestlers, two of the great wrestlers you'll ever see. I thought that was an absolutely amazing. Hence why it comes on my list here. Now going from that, our number 5, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair from WrestleMania 28 or 38. Wow, that was a 10-year difference, and I was actually at 28, so I should have remembered that. Anyway, Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, to me, set the tone for what you could do not only in women's wrestling, but in WWE with this match. Not only do you have the two bigger stars in the company, two of the biggest they have, two of the best wrestlers that they have going at it in a match, which absolutely culminates a storyline that had been going on for over a year between the two. Bianca Belair finally getting her comeuppance against Becky Lynch. It was just a fantastic story, a fantastic match to boot. One of the great matches that you're ever going to see at a WrestleMania. One of hopefully the great rivalries that you'll ever see in WWE with Becky and Bianca. I thought it was fantastic. That's why it's up here. Now from that, our number 4, from AEW's Revolution, CM Punk versus MJF in a dog collar match. There's a couple match styles that I'm a sucker for. The dog collar match is one. Growing up being a big Roddy Piper fan and Dusty Rhodes fan, you would see dog collar matches and bull rope matches with two of my favorite wrestlers being Dusty and Roddy. Roddy, more known, one of his most famous matches is against Greg Valentine. It's a videotape that I got very early on and wore out. Him and Greg from WrestleMania, Starrcade 83 in a dog collar match really set the tone of what you could do in these matches, and I've been a sucker for them ever since. This match was a masterclass in ring psychology. You had CM Punk, who had reverted to his Ring of Honor roots. He even came out to his Ring of Honor theme song. MJF, who basically is this generation's CM Punk, and possibly this generation's Roddy Piper, coming out and laying his claim to being the best heel in the business. Just a fantastic, brutal match. This is the kind of wrestling that really excites me, that if you were to tell me I could have a match like this on every wrestling card, I would be super jacked and super excited. As you'll see with my matches going on, they all have a common thread with this from here out, and this is the kind of smash mouth, brutal, story-driven wrestling that made me a fan in the first place, the kind of matches that I love. Now going from that, our number 3, another brutal contest from Clash at the Castle, Gunther versus Sheamus. For as long as Gunther wrestles, I believe he's going to find his way onto my top 10 matches every year. The guy's just fantastic. And so is Sheamus. No knock to Sheamus, who had, in my opinion, one of the best years of his career, if not the best year of his career, in-ring wise. This was another brutal, hard-hitting, violent match that gave that vibe of realism. And I'm not knocking any specific style. As you'll see, I have some matches that are more technical, more flippy style, if you want to say that. But just seeing something like this, a throwback to the days when guys would just go out there and beat the crap out of each other, just a fantastic match. And two of the guys that absolutely are the flag bearers for that style in this generation, going out there and blowing the roof off the building, just a fantastic showing. Probably in most other years this would be my number one, but as you'll see, there's two other matches that I liked a little bit better than this. Now going from that, number 2, the Briscoe Brothers versus FTR from Death Before Dishonor, the 2 out of 3 falls match. Much like I said with Gunther and Sheamus, or Gunther, with Punk and MJF, with Cody and Seth Rollins, the technical ability, the brutality, the psychology of these matches, you had two of the best tag teams of the last 20 years in the Briscoes in the last 7 or 8 years in FTR, going at it and absolutely putting on a clinic. The only reason I even bought Ring of Honor pay-per-views this year were to see this matchup, were to see the Briscoes and FTR. And that's not saying that there weren't other good matches on the cards, just saying this is what sold the cards. This is the rivalry that kept the name Ring of Honor alive. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I thought it was fantastic. Again, it was brutal, it was violent, there was new school, old school storytelling, everything about it was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. Now before we get into our number one, we do a thing here called the best of the rest, basically stuff that was considered for the list but didn't quite make it. First up, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shingo Takagi from the New Japan Cup Day 14. I love Zack Sabre. I love Shingo. I thought this was an absolute banger of a match, my favorite of the New Japan Cup tournament. I think both of these guys are absolutely fantastic. They put on a fantastic match here. The weird thing about the New Japan shows is it kind of felt like with the restrictions on the crowd, the matches themselves took a little bit of a hit, like the guys didn't go as far as they would have in previous years. And I'm not knocking Shingo or Sabre here. I thought they both did a fantastic job, and they both had a great match. Just saying in general, that was a little bit of the vibe I got from this year, that it was a little bit off in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's starting to come back around again. They're starting to get more and more fan interactions, and hopefully, starting with Wrestle Kingdom, we'll see them back on top, back in the groove after the pandemic restrictions are fully taken care of. Now going from that, the last but not least on our best of the rest, probably the worst in-ring match of this card, but it was just amazing for the spectacle and what it was. Kevin Owens versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from WrestleMania 38. 20 years between Stone Cold's last match and this match, and he absolutely had a great match with a guy that carried him there, that took him to having a great match in Kevin Owens. It didn't feel like Stone Cold was out of place. It didn't feel like he was a slow old man that lost a step. It felt like he was just as vital, just as good as he was in the Attitude Era. For a person that lived through the run of Steve Austin and how special that felt, to see just one more match, see him one more time being Stone Cold, it was so amazing and so great to see it. And Kevin Owens, a guy I absolutely love as well, helped him to get to another fantastic match, one to put the cherry on top of an amazing career. I know there's rumors that he's going to be at WrestleMania again. I don't know if I need to see it, but if we could get something as good as this, I'm not gonna be the one that says no to it. Now before we get into our number one, if you think I put a match too high, put a match too low, left a match off this list altogether, let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. And with all that being said, our number one wrestling match for the year 2022, the Briscoe Brothers versus FTR from Final Battle, the dog collar match. I mentioned it with CM Punk and MJF. I'm an absolute sucker for dog collar matches. I mentioned it with our number two, their 2 out of 3 falls match. I don't think these two teams could put on a bad match. This was bloody. This was violent. This was everything that you love about pro wrestling, or everything I love about pro wrestling, all in one match. This was like getting to see Dusty Rhodes versus Tully Blanchard back in the day. This was like getting to see Ric Flair versus Terry Funk. This was like getting to see Steve Austin versus The Rock. Any one of your favorite matches, you could look at this and that goes right up with it. Because the story that these four men could tell, the talent that these four men have, is unparalleled in the sport of pro wrestling. These are two of the top 10 tag teams of all time, in my opinion. They're going to go on the list. They're going to go right up there with teams like the Road Warriors, the Dudley Boys, the Midnight Express, the Young Bucks are up in there. You know, all those fantastic tag teams of the past. And these guys could have had a great match. Either team could have had matches with all of them. They would have been the best matches of all those teams' careers. This was just absolutely amazing. Just happened a few days ago. So I know there's a thing of recency bias. I don't think that's coming into play here. I thought this was absolutely an astounding match. I loved every bit of it. I thought it was fantastic, hence why it made my number one. Now again, think I put something too high, too low? Let me know what you think. And if you made it all the way to the end here, let me know what your favorite match of 2022 was. Was it one on this list? Was it something I left off altogether? Let me know in the comments your favorite match of 2022. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.